Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video series I'd like to take a closer look at the ultimate schematic. So far I've started off with a very short introductory video, a 20-minute video that gives you a quick overview of the ultimate schematic. And then I did an 11-part series on the ultimate solution. I started off with my overall perspective. I gave the definitive answer to 3 of the most important questions that we face as a species initially. Follow that up with 2 preliminary questions and 1 follow-up question. And then I went into more detail about the ultimate schematic and proceeded to explain how all of these different pieces fit on the ultimate schematic, so that I could then tell a story and at least show you where the logic is coming from, to prove that there is a way we can use logic to solve problems, and there's a way to identify systems that are using the wrong approach so that we don't get tricked and fooled. By knowing where all the pieces are relative to 3 stages of knowledge on 2 event horizons, so to speak. There are 3 stages of knowledge where we're playing in paradise, a place where we have no problems that are 100% within our control. Or we have 3 stages of false knowledge where we're in Plato's cave. And we end up with hundreds of thousands of problems that are 100% within our control. The problem that we have as a species is we just don't have the wisdom to know the difference. We've been tricked, we've been fooled, we've been bamboozled into believing that most of our problems are outside of our control. So the ultimate purpose of the ultimate schematic is to help us understand where we are, where we came from, how we got here, and how to get back to where we need to be. And it's interesting that we cannot go back the way we originally came, because we fell down 109 when we applied something we mastered to something we needed, meaning that we no longer satisfied that need. We didn't go from the plus A box to the plus B box. We slid down the 109 down into the negative B box. Remember, there's 2 ways we can make mistakes. And I just showed you one of them. Whenever we don't apply what we know for whatever reason, maybe we didn't have a choice in the matter. It could have been an act of nature that forced us to become opportunistic to survive. And of course, the other way that we have a problem, or where we make a mistake rather, is when we apply false knowledge, and unfortunately that's what's happening with most of us. Most of us don't know that we have an inaccurate belief system. Most of us don't know that we have false knowledge in place of the knowledge we need in the first stage of knowledge. Most of us don't know that we're making mistakes that are causing most of these problems that are 100% within our control in the second stage of knowledge. And once again, most of us don't know that most of our problems are 100% within our control. And this is very empowering knowledge. And it's hard to accept because it goes against so many things, who we are and our traditions and everything else. So the best way to deal with this knowledge is just test an idea as time has come, or what we can do is exclude the impossible. By showing the invalid structure in all the systems and protocols that are in charge, we can say, well, we got to throw this whole thing out now. Sienna, come back here, come. We're not going to walk that way. Come on, good girl. She's just taking off on me. So we don't want to use the wrong approach, and that's what we've been doing. We expect systems to solve problems that are self-inflicted. So we want to exclude those systems. We got to see the flaw in their structure, that they're putting the cart before the horse. They're guilty of what's called in Latin modus ponens. And you don't put the cart before the horse for a problem within your control. Now, if the horse breaks a leg, yeah, let's put the cart before the horse so the horse doesn't keep moving. It might bleed to death. So there's a time and a place to treat a symptom. Even if it's a lifestyle-related problem originally, it can reach to a stage where it is life-threatening. So there's a science and there's an art to solving problems. And we always apply the science first, and then the art requires a lot of effort on your part to really know how to do that, because you know your body better than anyone else. Remember, the art has to do with the damage we've done. We now have anatomical limitations based on mistakes we've made. And we also have anatomical limitations that we cannot ignore, that we've got from birth. And so many times people will try to rationalize that that our ideal way of living is not ideal because it doesn't satisfy these additional temporary needs. Well, it's a different set of needs. It doesn't negate the first set of needs. We still have limitations. There are two limitations we have to understand. And this, of course, will fit in my ultimate schematic under the knowledge we need. It applies to two groups of needs we must satisfy. All we have to do to solve just about every problem in our society is to satisfy two groups of needs. But most of us are not willing and able to do that, which is why I added two preliminary steps to the only thing we have to do, thereby perfecting a three-step process. Come, Sienna, come back here. The first step addresses the willingness issue on a temporary basis so we can see what we're missing. And then be in a better position to take the second step where we're going to correct 5 main mistakes on a permanent basis. And then once we add these 5 main mistakes onto our list of mistakes to correct, we'll finally be in a position to do the one main thing we have to do. And that is to satisfy two groups of needs. And again, this is in the plus A box of knowledge. And we're not solving our problems because we start off in the negative A box of false knowledge. So where are we in this 6-box system? We're on the bottom part of this 6-box system in Plato's cave, where we start our journey off in life with false knowledge. That's because of our traditions. That's how we make the mistakes, and that's how we have all these problems within our control. So we got to get up to the plus A box of knowledge. That's the first step. And we can't do that unless we admit we have false knowledge. So that's 18.1, where we are unwilling to admit that that we have an inaccurate belief system. And then there are 3 sub-pieces in there that have to do with the 3 stages of knowledge. We're unwilling to admit that we have false knowledge in place of the knowledge we need in the first stage of knowledge. We're unwilling to admit that we're making mistakes that are causing most of our problems in the second stage of knowledge. And we're unwilling to admit that most of our problems are 100% within our control in the third stage of knowledge. Get back here, Sienna, come on. So when we look at the ultimate schematic, I'd like to right now go over some of the most important pieces to the puzzle. Obviously, piece number 1 is important because it's the knowledge we need. Piece number 2 is important because it's the false knowledge we have in its place, and we can't learn anything we think we already know. Piece 3 is important. That's the dark side of our behavior, because that's an immense source for false knowledge. They're going out of their way to make sure we stay sick and ignorant. Piece 4 is our traditions. Piece 5 is a malfunctioning survival mechanism. Piece 6 is fear. All these pieces are worth emphasizing. Piece 7, the 6 ways, our 6 subsequent needs are also problems of knowledge. This is how we're being controlled, remember. Our subsequent need for education, for money, for media, for government, for religion and spirituality. Yes, these can be used against us. And then our subsequent need for power. The 8 ways we use the wrong approach, the one I want to emphasize, the 2 I should say that I want to emphasize here is 8.1, where we use the wrong approach and expect systems to solve our problems. And piece 8.5, guess what? Sienna, get back here, girl. Hey, it's 8.5 time. 8.5, that's where actually, it's 8.4 first. I want to say that one because that's where the systems in charge are guilty of modus ponens. That's where they're putting the cart before the horse. And then 8.5 is also one that's worth understanding because our experts are specialized. They look at our problems individually instead of collectively. They get lost in the rabbit hole looking at all the 103s. We don't want to go down, we don't want the devil to go in the details, or we don't want to be a victim of that rabbit hole and get obsessed within the details. You don't name your symptoms. That's the trick. That's a sleight of hand. So how can they do that? Well, they're taught to specialize and look at body parts separately, and they don't study the concept of totality. Let's go, baby. Come back this way. Come on. So those are important. Piece 9 is important because that's what it all got started, that battle between the brains. Then we can jump up to the herd mentality. That's important because we're headed for an iceberg, or we're about to run off the cliff. And then remember, we can use 9 and 14 to actually get us back onto the right path. We can use that clever brain and modify what used to be the best preparation for a better way of life. When we reach the tipping point, we can get the rudder to turn the rudder and get the ship to go a different direction. Then we don't have to end up where we're headed. And then 15 and 16 are important because that's what's keeping most of us from even entertaining this idea. Addictions and denial are huge. Apathy, I told you that one before. Now we're going to 54.5. That's where we must be willing to apply apply what we know, or in this case, if we don't even believe it, we have to get rid of this piece because it's where we're unwilling to test an idea as time has come. Of course, 18.1 is important too because we're unwilling to admit that we have an inaccurate belief system. Then going past 54, from then on out, what's important, the most important pieces on the wrong path would be the 46 to 50, the 90 to 95, and the 103. 103, remember are our problems that are within our control. 95 to 99 are the 5 main mistakes relative to the 5 things we mastered. And then 36 to 40 are the 5 false beliefs that we think that what we're doing is okay. Remember, most of us are doing things we think are okay, but they're not okay. They are wrong, and they are the reason why we have so many problems. Sienna, come back here, come here. So in this video series, we're going to be looking at more pieces to the ultimate schematic. We're going to help us understand where we are. Again, where are we? We're in Plato's cave. Where did we come from? We were playing in paradise. We used to have knowledge. We made good applications, and we had paradise. We had unlimited potential, a place where we didn't have problems that were within our control. Nothing special, nothing magical that you can just snap your fingers and all of a sudden something appears. No, that's not what paradise is. Paradise is simply the absence of problems within our control. And since most of our problems are 100% within our control, this place indeed would be paradise if we could get rid of those problems. And it's possible. It's doable. And we need to do it. So how do we get back to where we need to go? We got to go up through 2 doorways. We got to go through the first one, the -a plus a doorway. That's how we get back into paradise. But then getting out of the cave isn't any good unless we go back to the garden, and that's where we have to apply what we know and go through the second doorway. So I explain these better or in more detail in my quick overview video I uploaded back in December. Or I taped it back in December, uploaded it just recently. And it's the ultimate schematic. It's the introductory video where I explain I have 12 stories. There's 12 main stories that I've made sure I try to always tell when I tell my story, because I've got so many stories to tell. And then of those, there are 4 main stories that I try to tell all the time, and people are probably getting tired of me hearing it, but I know what's important to say. And if you only hear one thing I say, if I only have 2 minutes to talk or 10 seconds to talk, you're going to hear those 4 stories. Give me more time, I'll tell you the 12 stories. Give me more time and I'll tell you enough stories to make your head spin. I've been working very hard for 25 years. Ever since I found this knowledge, I felt like it was the most important piece of the puzzle. And I wanted to find all the other pieces to make sure it was the most important piece of the puzzle. And in the meantime, I'm gathering all these pieces. I had to put them somewhere. So I'm a gifted typologist, one might say. It's kind of how my brain works. I'm really good at seeing the commonality in things and changing things around and grouping things. So that's my gift to me, and now my gift to you guys is the ultimate schematic. It's a way to understand where we are and not be confused. It's really simple when you just break it down, forget the piece numbers, just say there's 3 stages of knowledge. Either we got knowledge and good applications and no problems, or it's the other way around. We've got false knowledge, bad applications, and lots of problems. And my baby, it's funny, she doesn't like to walk north and west because we live south and east. So she's very hesitant to always walk the other direction and always eager to walk back what she thinks is home. Interesting how she always knows no matter where I go. Ain't that right, girl? So the purpose of this video series is to help us understand how not to get tricked. I've identified all the piece numbers that I think are important, and there's a lot more pieces that you'll see where they'll fit. So that's one of the things you're going to want to do is look at my schematic, try to figure out what you know. If you think you got solutions to problems, find where they fit in my schematic, and look to see if you got all the pieces. It may turn out you may think you found the tree of knowledge, but you only found one branch, and you think it's the only branch. So my ultimate schematic will not only help us understand where we are, where we came from, how to get back to where we need to be, but it can also be used to help everyone understand what they understand and how it relates to everything else, and to see if you're missing some pieces of the puzzle. And if I'm lucky, you're going to have some pieces for me I don't know about. Chances are most of those pieces are going to end up as a sub-piece in one of my other pieces. I created a lot of sub-pieces, or I could call them sub-puzzles, in order to hide pieces in. Come, Sienna, come! Sienna! And come! She's losing her hearing. Come! Sienna, come! Sienna, come! She is just blindly going off. Sienna, come here, girl. Come on, let's go. Come on, come. Sienna, come this way. Sienna, come. Come here, baby. Come. Come here. Come. Come on. What you doing? What is wrong with you right now, huh? You're messing up my shooting. What's going on, sweeters? Why are you in such a hurry to go that direction? Are you trying to tell me it's yummy time? Huh? You know, I think her hearing has gotten so bad that in certain places she ends up hearing an echo and runs the other way thinking that's where I am. And then she's losing her hearing. Poor little girl, they over-vaccinated her when I rescued her. And then she developed diabetes. And we're doing a good job keeping it under control, but once that pancreas is damaged, this is a classic example where we have two groups of needs we must satisfy now. I feed her a raw food diet, and I do it very intelligently. I grind up some leafy greens in a Vitamix and add some digestive enzymes so that kind of makes up for the pre-digested greens she would get. I try to give her some organ meats along with her raw meat and bones diet of necks and backs and no legs, necks and backs and wings, things like that. And I do give her a little bit of canned food because it's supplemented with other vitamins. But that wasn't enough. In fact, when I first got her and put her on this diet, she started oozing out. I'll show you real quick. The vaccines on her leg. See the bottom of her leg right there. She, do I have it? I can't see the angle. She developed a hot spot on her leg right there and oozed those vaccines out. But that wasn't enough to get them all out of her. And now she requires lots of attention, but she sure is worth it. So in closing this first follow-up video for the Ultimate Schematic, try to use this to help you figure out things you're trying to figure out. In many cases, you'll go, oh my God, I didn't realize there's this piece over here. That's one of the reasons why I called the Ultimate Schematic the Epiphany Maker. I've called it a 6-box system. I called it Plato's map on the bottom and the hero's map on top. But I call it the Epiphany Maker now because whenever I revisit something I had studied long ago and now I have this tool, I'm amazed at how I can figure things out so much better and easier. And then there are some things I come upon that I've never even contemplated, and I'm already able to understand it in a much better way because I understand there's 3 stages, on the right path and on the wrong path. So the Ultimate Schematic can be kind of intimidating in the beginning because it seems complicated, but once you understand that it's just like a map, it'd be no different than I said, here's a map of a country. I'm going to identify 6 states and then 281 cities. That's what we got here. It's just it's a place where we can put all the pieces, but the beauty about these states or these boxes is that they all logically connect to one another. It's either, each box has an order paired to polar opposites, so it's either before or after, or it's the opposite. That's how I ended up with 18 portals or 18 connections that logically connect these boxes together. And then of the 281 pieces, 69 of those pieces are in the 18 portals, and the other 212 pieces are in the 6 boxes. Remember, there are 53 pieces in the 2 doorways we have to go through, 40 and 13. Then the other 16 pieces just name the other 16 portals, which explains how the boxes logically connect to one another. And then the 212 pieces, if you recall, in my other videos, actually come from 128 main pieces that come from 25 main pieces that come from 5 main categories where we have 14, 5, 3, 2, and 1, respectively. And if all 25 of those pieces in all 5 groups were in all 6 boxes, there'd be 150 pieces. But they're not. There's 128 instead. First 4 groups are in the first stage of knowledge, 24 and 24. But then we add pieces 1 and 2, so there's another 2. Come back here, Sienna, come. And then the second and third stage of knowledge on both the right path and wrong path have the first 2 groups and the last one, so that's 19 and 1. So that's 20, 20, 20, 20. So that's 24, 24, 48, and 80 is 128. And then to these 120, I added 4 pieces to hide pieces, and that's where pieces 1 and 2 come from, also 101 and 103. I hit 19 pieces in 101, I hit 19 pieces in 103 to make things simpler. That way when we look at what we got, especially our problems, they're either within our control or outside our control. But then I listed those 19 pieces in the second stage of knowledge. I didn't hide those because we want to know what we're doing. And they can still be referenced in 101 and 103 by putting a 101.61 to 101.79, and we could also put 103.81 to 103.99. And of course we have those pieces are there are the fifth category is where we have only one, and that's where we have things outside of control. That's where pieces 80 and 102 come from, and 100 and 104. 80 would be acts of love and acts of kindness, and that produces 102. That's a positive effect from things outside our control. And then we have the 100, where we have accidents and acts of nature, where we have no control whatsoever, and also acts of war, crime, and violence, where we have limited control, as again piece 100, and that gives us to 104. So most of our problems are 103s. We've been tricked and convinced to think that most of our problems are 104s. That's what gets us in trouble. So there's a very simple solution to solve these problems. I have other videos that will back up the first of my three-step process that we want to take. Remember, we need a brand new reference to overcome the amount of references we have now that are supporting our current belief system, our current way of life. And if we can get enough of us to do the first of my three-step process, things are never going to change. We really need to get behind this grassroots movement, because the solution is a bottom-up solution. All of us play a role when it comes to solving problems that are within our control, because all of us have to be the best that we can be. And that's the beauty about getting rid of piece 103.89, which is hypoheliosis. That's where we have an abnormally low biophoton level. And when we get reconnected, we have 101.69. That's where we get rid of hypoheliosis A. But remember, as long as most of us are disconnected, we still have hypoheliosis B, which is where we have an abnormally low biophoton level on a collective level. So to ultimately get out of Plato's cave and get back into the garden, or back into paradise where we don't have any problems within our control, all of us have to get rid of hypoheliosis A so we can eradicate hypoheliosis B. Then we won't have a dark side to our behavior anymore. Then we'll have a different mentality. We won't compete for resources on an abundant planet. Instead, we'll cooperate and share the abundance this planet has to offer. We'll think differently, because we'll know that the more we give, the more we receive. And once we start doing that, we see the results, and it's really exciting to think what this planet could be like if we all had this mentality. The great thing about this mentality is you don't have to think about it. All you have to do is bump up those biophotons. That's why in an ideal world there's only one law. We all have to have a minimal biphoton level. What is that number? How much do we have to make sure we don't make mistakes? I don't know. Maybe we can get away with quite a few mistakes. But then there's a fine line that once you start making the mistake, you get addicted to it, you run into denial, and you pass those mistakes on down to your children before you know it. And that's how we got in trouble in the first place. So perhaps we'll always have some residual effects from making these mistakes as a reminder of where we came from. That is, of course, if we can ever get out of this hell we dug. But we can't do it if we're like a bunch of crabs trying to get out of a container, and they all crawl on each other as one's starting to get close to getting out. If we all work together, we can get out of this hole. But unfortunately, at the top of the hole, we've got these 6 psychopaths that want to keep the rest of us in the hole. They think it's great for them because they're at the top of the hole, but they don't realize they're still in a hole. Even though they're at the top of a heap, rather. They're at the top of a heap inside of a hole, but they're still in the hole. Life is an illusion for all of us. Even those who are taking advantage of us are not even coming close to really living up to the potential of what this planet has to offer. And I guess if there was any group of people I wish would test an idea as time has come, it'd be you guys. And hoping that enough of you would see the light, because you could make this planet transform so fast if you wanted to, and you know it. You can work your butt off now and control us, but you could stop working so hard, start relaxing and enjoying life, and stop trying to connive all the time, and help us get reconnected. And the beauty about this is no one's going to be persecuted. That's the great thing. I talked about what would happen if doctors actually gave up their need for money and revealed that they were incompetent and they were causing more harm. That we're not going to want to persecute them for what they did. It wasn't their fault. They were misdirected. And again, it wouldn't even be necessarily that they'd be persecuted. Once we change our mentality, everything's going to change. That's why it's so hard to project ourselves in the future, to try to think, well, what what's going to happen when we finally get to that place. Okay, that cloud's finally going away. I had a nice spot for sunshine earlier, and this nasty little cloud came over and blocked my light. So I guess I'll close by saying that I'll be doing some more videos along these lines that will explain the piece numbers to help you understand how it can be used. Maybe I might illustrate a few ways that I've analyzed what certain philosophers say to help you understand how you can use this also. Good and evil, for example. This will be your assignment for next time. Look at some quotes by Good and Evil and try to figure out if these people are using all three stages of knowledge. You'll find most of them don't. So far, Spinoza, I know, uses all three stages of knowledge, but everyone else I looked at so far only uses two of them. So see if you can figure that out and help me add it to the list of other people who understand there's three stages. Be an interesting assignment. So I guess I'll say bye for now and look forward to my next video. Bye-bye.